It's time for the Wrestling Observer Extra.
One more time for old time's sake.
With Dave Meltzer, right here on The Law. Live audio wrestling.
And let's go, but now smoking with the best.
Hour 2 of The Law still to come. We'll touch base with Braden Harrington, who is there tonight, actually at the Royal Rumble, get his take on the live environment, along with that title about trivia, and then a little bit more later in the show. But right now, of course, just after the turn of midnight, we touch base with the editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and that is Dave Meltzer. Dave, tonight, it was the Royal Rumble, and overall, what did you think of the show?
I thought it was a really good show.
Yeah.
I thought just up and down, there's very little I could say negative about it. I thought the Rumble was great, and I thought that every undercard match was good to great. The women's thing was the most successful women's thing they've had in probably, ever. You know what I mean? As far as the main roster goes, it just the match got over, the post-match got over. The Rumble was straightforward. The little bit of goofiness was fine. It was very little. They didn't bog it down. I mean, for whatever it was, they kept the thing going, and it was never like that Rumble thing where you go through this period where it's like all these bad wrestlers and you just kind of like wait for it to get over.
Well, Strowman had his moments, Dave.
Where I was like, okay, let's move on. It was like whatever, every entrant seemed to have a purpose for when they were there, and the ones that you don't really want to see, they were gone quick anyway.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Dave, what did you think of how they handled AJ? I was I have to say blown away. I mean, first off, I didn't really expect him to be in there, but I do really think that the crowd reaction helped a lot on this one too.
Yeah, if the crowd wasn't there for him, it would have been a lot tougher. But
yeah.
I sensed from the crowd, him and Jericho seemed to be like the two most over guys, at least in the early part of the match, because they sure didn't like Roman Reigns.
No,
well,
which would be the one negative thing coming out of the show, is from a WWE standpoint, is that after all that work, the people were still booing Roman Reigns, but they did a good storyline with him, and the Triple H thing was, winning didn't surprise me at all. I was expecting it, but the way he did it, I expected like a come from behind thing where Roman Reigns had the center of the ring and thought he won and somehow got distracted and Triple H threw him out, as opposed to Triple H like coming out there and being a monster and beating on everyone. And I can kind of get it. He's in the main event at WrestleMania, so he does kind of have to look strong. But at other points, I was kind of thinking like, man, you're going through the roster, but he is in the main event of Mania, so I guess you just got to do it that way.
Okay, Dave, but let's throw this at you now, because you said the one negative was in regards to Roman Reigns and how the crowd reacted, and you're talking about Triple H being the monster. Obviously, that's the program we're headed to for WrestleMania. The crowd that was at the Royal Rumble tonight is a similar hardcore crowd that will be the one with similar reactions at WrestleMania. So, as looking at what can WWE do here to have Roman Reigns get over with this crowd so they don't cheer Triple H.
Well, one thing is Triple H should work like a heel instead of like a baby face.
Yeah, that would help.
that might help. But it'll be tough because Triple H, no matter what, number one, Triple H is the guy who gives us NXT. So, and you're in Orlando. So that was a big thing there.
Yeah.
But NXT is still the hot brand, and he's out there front and center. He's the guy who gives you that. And Roman Reigns, even though he's the hand-picked guy, there is that resentment. The one thing is that there's no alternative guy. The alternative is like a Dean Ambrose or something who's popular, but there's nobody over the top popular, in the company. Cena would get a mixed reaction anyway. Obviously Daniel Bryan is still not around, who would, if he was around, I think it would change things. Now, if AJ had legs, that could do things, but I think that tonight's reaction to AJ, which they have to be thrilled with, it's going to be interesting because it'll be interesting to see how the reaction goes at TV tomorrow night, because it'll be a less hardcore crowd.
Well,
and also what they do, because they have to program him with somebody, and if they program him in the middle, he's going to be a middle guy.
But I think it was set up nice in the Rumble, Dave, in that you set him up with Kevin Owens. Owens tossed him out, said welcome to WWE, and AJ's not a great talker, so you put him with someone like Owens. Owens can do all the promo work, and they'll have good matches.
Yeah, but I sensed Owens with Sami Zayn too.
But why would you do that? It's like an NXT type program.
Maybe he'll do both, because it's pretty clear from the angle that they did. I think it was in Milwaukee. that they're going to go with Owens and Sami Zayn at some point. Maybe that'll be the NXT match. Well, I don't think so, because I think Sami Zayn's going to be challenging for the title at the NXT show in Dallas.
Yeah.
I mean, looking out of this, looking down at WrestleMania, we kind of had Reigns and Triple H. Thought perhaps Ambrose and Jericho, because that was the elimination tonight.
Yeah,
and they
could be.
Remarked back at the fact that Jericho's the one who's turned his back on Ambrose and cost him the match when he brought him in a few months ago. Thought perhaps Owens and AJ, due to the way that elimination went, and unfortunately Brock and the Wyatts is definitely set in stone here.
Brock and Bray and some sort of a thing. Yeah.
What is this?
I think that's kind of a lock, and then we still have to. Then Undertaker will probably be against Sheamus.
We didn't think of that. That's unfortunate.
But what about?
I mean, there was nothing in that direction, or Braun Strowman. But I think that Braun Strowman would probably be in the Brock thing.
That would be a bowling shoe match,
like in the corner or something to cause distraction or something.
But okay, so where does Rock end up in all of this then?
Perhaps it's Vince and Stephanie in one corner and Rock in the other corner.
I don't know.
No, it could. I mean, you got to involve The Rock some way. He says he's going to be there, and there's that whole family thing that they've been saying. They've always been talking about, and hoping that The Rock will, much like they tried to do in the Rumble, it would have been last year, unsuccessfully.
Okay, but here's the thing: you do have Stephanie in this situation, which is good. You're going to have The Rock, which will help. I mean, Triple H is he's going to get cheered, but you got Vince, and Vince is still the one guy that got Roman over before, and I think he can. I think at WrestleMania, Vince can get him over. Triple H, no. But if Vince is there playing off The Rock, I don't know. I mean, it is a risk, no doubt.
It seems weird for me for Rock to say that it's going to be a big thing at Mania, and then he's just in somebody's corner. That doesn't really.
Well, if it's in his corner against the McMahons.
I suppose. I don't know. I guess I still just think he should be in a match rather than just be in there.
If he can be in a match, he'll be in a match.
Yeah.
But if he was going to be in a match, it would be against Triple H.
That's what they
and
teased,
it's pretty clear from the angle tonight
that's not happening.
That's not happening. Yeah.
Dave, going back to the women's program, which was looked upon as being successful tonight in regards to what they did with getting Sasha over, do you see a one-on-one with Sasha and Charlotte, or do you see Becky involved in that and do some sort of three-way thing? Because I'm just wondering if they're going to let Sasha be the babyface because the crowd wants to cheer her.
Yeah, I think they could do either one, but I think at Mania it'll be. I thought for a year at Mania it was going to be Charlotte and Sasha one-on-one at the next Mania. Ever since I saw the match in San Jose, I just thought that it was like that's so logical that next year at Mania you do this exact same match in at WrestleMania instead of at NXT. No one told me that, but I always thought like that was the obvious way to go. The three-way muddles it up too much, honestly. You could do the three-way at another show.
Dave, were you surprised that they gave the title back to Kalisto in the match with Alberto Del Rio? Because I kind of figured that was just a TV thing and that they would leave it with Del Rio now.
Well, if they were going to keep it going for a while, they got to keep that program going for a while. So I think that I was a little surprised, though. Yeah, but it makes sense.
So Del Rio wins it back?
Really, honestly, though, when I look at it, it makes the win back by Del Rio at SmackDown like completely silly. Because why do it? Because then you're changing it again, and it's like now it's almost like you're making it that hot potato championship, and the hot potato championships
never works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we'll see it change hands tomorrow night on Raw then.
Good. Or Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know.
If you're WWE, how do you present AJ Styles tomorrow?
As a big superstar, and I think he's got to go in there and have a really, maybe even a match with Kevin, honestly. Because the thing with AJ is he'll get over by wrestling. Anything else he does, honestly, I would probably have wanted to have 6 weeks of video packages before he ever debuted. But that's, I think, the cat's out of the bag on that one. So now I think it's imperative that he's in there with somebody who's really, really good, and he goes in there and has a really good match. And that's hard to get over in WWE like that. I mean, that's how you get over in Japan. But, I think at first there's going to be a little bit of a honeymoon with him anyway. And he is really good. And if they position him with again, Kevin's a top guy, close to the top. So I think that with a guy like that, it'll work out. You just don't want him to end up like Neville. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. Just sticking with AJ quickly, too, Dave. All this stuff with TNA coming out this week and TNA saying that they were there and they had signed this and signed that. Obviously, none of that's happening from what we saw tonight. But was that just TNA trying to I don't know.
I mean, I
flex their muscles.
read it on Friday as them trying to scare WWE away from using AJ, and obviously WWE wasn't concerned in the least because they used him and featured him. But that's how I saw it, because that, you know, it's just a way to, you know, kind of screw them while you know, because they feel like they were jilted, that they were, you know. But the thing that's so bad about it is like everyone knew. I mean, this is what I got to say about AJ. He has made it clear. You guys have talked to him. I've talked to him over the last year, and he has always made it clear that at the end of this year he's going to go to whoever's going to, you know, pay him the most, and that could be whether it was Ring of Honor, whether it was TNA. I mean, there was, you know, never anything. It's where he could make the most money, and at the end of the day, obviously, this was the place that offered him the best deal. If Japan did, he'd stay in Japan. If TNA offered the best deal, he'd be in TNA. And TNA can't get mad. If the only way TNA could get mad is if, I mean, they didn't offer him the best deal.
Mm-hmm. Another interesting thing with AJ Styles coming in is he's AJ Styles.
Yeah, he didn't have a name change.
That was interesting, wasn't it?
The only other person we've seen that happen with is Samoa Joe, but Samoa Joe's existing on NXT. Yeah, so this is main roster and staying on main roster from what we can determine.
I wonder if they could still change, because Kenta came in as Kenta, and then right at TV they changed his name. You know, what I'm saying?
They did that. I mean, they did that with Balor as well. He was Prince Devitt initially.
They were pushing him coming in as Prince Devitt, and then they changed him to Finn Balor. So they could still do a name change. In the next week or so. Yeah.
But it is different though, because this is main roster. I mean, that is developmental.
Roster. It's main roster, and the other one too is that people will have there'll be a pushback on name change for him.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
because,
yeah.
You know, again, with Finn Balor and Prince Devitt, it was a guy who was in Japan. You know, wasn't a guy who's been on television for 11 years. So I think that it would be tough. I mean, it's best that they don't, but they do want to own your your gimmick and everything. So. I still wouldn't be surprised to see the name change. They couldn't come in and bring him in with a fake name now, because people would just have rejected. They would have rejected him with a fake name right away. They had to do it this way. But yeah, could they change it? Yeah.
You know, the funny thing is, they when AJ debuted tonight, they did not show this. They tried not to show the screen with his name on it.
Yes.
Which I found rather strange.
Right.
Because it was just as you could hear that gospel music, and it stayed on the ring, and the crowd was already cheering. And when clearly the name came on the screen, and it wasn't until he came out they cut to him.
Right.
So I thought that was
interesting. So it could be that they are going to maybe change. I think it would be silly to change his name once you've already introduced him as AJ Styles. That's something.
I think it's silly to change a name that someone's established, even though it was in another organization.
Right.
You know, it's been so many years of television, and you know, in the last 2 years in particular, he's really made his name.
Yeah.
Dave, we're going to say goodbye for this week. What's happening in the Observer? The awards issue was last week.
Yeah, so Royal Rumble issue, and of course, big story on Archie the Stomper Goldie, which, you know, God, what a freaking legend in this business.
Yeah, for sure. Here in Canada, especially for all the stuff, starting out in Stampede with Stu Hart, scaring the crap out of Bret Hart when he was a little kid, all that stuff.
Yeah, you know, the angle with Stu, and the angle with Bad News
Allen,
the most famous angle ever in Calgary.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
That's great. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show as well, with Mouth going through some of that stuff. So we look forward to reading about that and chatting with you next week at this very same time.
Okay, have a great week.
You too. Thanks. That's Dave Meltzer. WrestlingObserver.com is where you can find all his fine work.